Brandon Benefield, Gerard Bonner, and Diana Michelle.
What's going on, everybody? It is Friday. You know what that means. It's time for your SHW podcast. This is our wrestling. I'm B-Double Brandon Benfield, alongside the great GB Gerard Bonner and the beautiful Diana Michelle. We are V3, and we are finally back. It's been a couple of weeks. I've missed you guys. It's been 4th of July, been holidays. People been out of town. How is everybody doing?
It has been a minute, but
Yeah.
we've also just been everywhere.
We have.
GB's going out of the country again, trying to fight you come face to face almost with a hurricane or something?
Yeah, we got close. We got close. It was crazy.
Made it back just in time.
We did. I'm grateful for that.
It.
Yeah.
Just stories and things and events. V3 is traveling and working.
Yeah.
And but I miss y'all. It's nothing like having you two with me wherever I am. And it's
absolutely.
I get one here and I get one there, but then we get to come together here and it's just great.
Just right.
It's great. I miss y'all.
Yeah. Miss you guys. This has been I'm calling it the summer of V3 because we literally are everywhere this summer. And so I tell you guys this all the time, but I am grateful that we get to do this journey together. I know sometimes the wrestling fans don't always understand what all of it is, and most are accustomed to seeing us here and us, on those first Fridays and things of that nature. But, it is really awesome to see the three of us really getting to spread our wings across the wrestling world. And it's just cool. Like, I literally find myself, I hate when we're separated, but I love if we're separated and working. Like, that's just oh, that's the best feeling. You know what I mean? So
then we have stories we can tell. And all the things. I can't wait to hear about this whole
They can't all make the air though, folks. So
No,
we apologize. Some
can't.
of those stay behind the curtain.
But do yourself a favor, all of you guys who are out there. I just think that you should be showing these guys love. In wherever you see us, wherever you find us. By now you obviously know we do things besides Southern Honor, but show love, because again, you just never know where the road's going to take any of us. And I'm just glad that we get to do this and that you guys get to be a part of what we're doing at this stage of our careers. So always lots of love for what V3 is doing. And, I'll say this, and then I know we've got an interview and stuff to get to, but what's so cool is wrestling is in such a great place right now. And one of the reasons for that is people can always sense authenticity. They can sense what's just being put together by a group of people versus people who really connect with each other. And I've been told that people can really tell that the three of us are who we say we are, because we are, and so I hope you guys really get to feel kind of the passion and connection that we have. We love this business and we love each other. And this is great. It's great to see you guys again.
Absolutely. And I know it's, we took July off for SHW, but we are going to come back.
What a month. What a month to take off.
I know. But we're going to come back with a bang with our one of our biggest shows of the year, August 9th, the 6th annual Rumble Jack. We cannot wait. So go ahead. If you haven't put it on your calendar yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go ahead and make your plans now. You have no excuse. You've had plenty of time, plenty of lead time. So just go ahead and make your plans. You're not going to want to miss it. Most unpredictable show every single year. You never know who. We say it at every show. You never know who's going to show up. But at the Rumble Jack especially, I mean, we'll have some announcements. We've already had a bunch of names announced as entrants, right? We'll probably have some more before August 9th be announced on social media. But there's going to be a bunch that aren't announced, and it's going to leave you wondering. You never know who's going to come out at what number and who might show up. I mean, it's going to be insane. So,
and not only that, but we also have a last man standing match for the title.
Oh my gosh.
We also have that.
Yeah, on top of the Rumble Jack.
Woo! Is taking on Judas for the title in the last man standing match. So that is another huge part of it's a thing. Who knows what's going to even be standing after that segment.
And the thing is, Rumble Jack usually headlines the show, the Rumble Jack match itself. So yeah, that's the thing. Will the match still be standing for the Rumble Jack after the last man standing match? It's going to be crazy.
Clean up on aisle 5, man.
Absolutely. It's going to be nuts. But that's August 9th. It's a few weeks away. But before that, I do know one guy that's going to be in the Rumble Jack. He was announced in the last couple of weeks as an entrant. That is the one and only Cody Fluffman. We had a chance to talk to him a little earlier. He stopped by the podcast. So without any further ado, let's get to it.
Fluffman Cometh.
All right, guys. So we are super excited about our special guest hanging out with on the podcast. And quite frankly, he's become a favorite. It's almost like he's homegrown, but he's new relatively. So it's his first time, his maiden voyage here on the podcast. We are so excited to have the Fluff Man with us. The Fluffman Cometh. Cody Fluffman is in the building. How are you, sir?
I'm great, guys. How are y'all doing?
We are fantastic.
I'm excited to talk to you about all the things that are going on with you, all the things that are going on in Southern Honor with you, and welcome to the family, because you are a total family now.
No, I appreciate it. I love being a Southern Honor, and whenever I got the call to come do this, I was super pumped because it's crazy because like I went from I've been wrestling for about 5 years now, and I went from I've never done like a podcast stuff before to like the past 2 months I've done like 6, and it's been awesome. Like I've loved this stuff is so cool to me because this is like kind of some of the stuff that whenever you are watching wrestling, that's like some of the cool stuff you see. So like getting to do all this has been awesome. And then finally getting to be on here with you guys, hanging out with 3 of my favorite people. Like you can't turn that opportunity down.
That's right.
That's
love it, man. Love it. Well, you mentioned 5 years. That's when you've been in the business 5 years, right? So
yeah.
I do want to go back farther than that, but before we do, I'm curious, 5 years ago, like where did you come up? Where were you trained? And are you from Georgia originally?
Yeah, so I originally grew up in Augusta, Georgia. I lived here pretty much my whole entire life until I was about 22, I want to say. And then I moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and that's where I was trained by a wrestler by the name of Billy Brash. He trained me, and I trained with him for about a year until I finally debuted. And it was really cool. I got to debut the day before my 24th birthday. So it was April 27th, 2019. It was the day before my 24th birthday, which, like, silly little side note, I always grew up with like a fascination with the number 23. Never a basketball fan. Don't know why I love the number so much, but legit, my last day of being 23 years old, it was the day I got to debut in professional wrestling. So that's always like one little cool thing where I was like, I wonder if that number is going to be important. And then, the day before my 21st birthday, I debuted as a professional wrestler.
Well, there you go.
Who was your first opponent?
So I was in a 4-way match. It was me, a guy by the name of Aaron Berry, he goes by Paul Lasher now, and then the third guy in it was he goes by Don Furio now.
Ah, yes.
But we were in a fatal 4-way, and we had all 4 trained together too. So from there, we had our first match together, which was a really cool moment.
Yeah, we actually know Don Furio through the Nightmare Factory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this, timestamps really mean a lot these days because we're all kind of connected to a lot of the things that happen. And of course, you starting in 2019 is intriguing to me because we all know what happened in 2020. The world shut down. The wrestling industry was severely impacted. Ironically, that helped to launch this particular podcast. And we asked people during that time, and I want to ask you, what was the impact of the pandemic on you and your wrestling career, given that you had just launched in 2019, you were just getting momentum, just getting started, and then boom. How did that impact?
Yeah. So I actually have one of my first ever merch shirts. If I can grab that to show you guys how much of a difference there was.
Stand by.
My fluff connection.
Where are you? There you are.
Oh, we can still hear me. Still mic'd up.
This is great.
So I got the headphones in.
I love it.
2019, I debuted, yes, as Cody Fluffman, but not as the Cody Fluffman a lot of people know now. Because I did debut with kind of like a like a sillier little gimmick. So I used to be like a frat guy. Now, keep in mind, never been to college. Probably never seen one like physically in my face, but I was a frat guy. This was one of my first merch shirts. It was my Fluffman pancake shirt.
Oh.
But that's what I would wear. Is I had a cutoff polo shirt, and I wore khakis.
Wow.
And I had a backwards hat that said Fluffman on it. Like my debut match, I came out with a paddle and some like little plastic Solo cups on it. My first day in wrestling, I was selling like plastic Solo cups and just signing them for like $1. I went through a whole 24-pack. It was awesome. Like,
here's the thing.
You and Bryce have a lot of similarities there.
Yeah, so that's where it is. Yeah, it is funny. Yeah.
I didn't want to get into it and open up a whole can of worms here, but I was going to say, because of Exotic Youth, any frat, anything just really makes my blood boil. I can't stand those punks. But I was going to say, in this case, I feel like you would have been the only frat guy that I might have taken to a little bit, you know, but those guys, nah.
Yeah, so I was portraying this like fraternity character, like I was the frat boy. Like I did do some research on like different like movies. Like I watched Animal House, and like Chris Farley has always been like a big inspiration to me. So I based like a lot of my like personality and characteristics off of Chris Farley. So doing a character like that was like cool, but like at the end of the day, it just wasn't me because I've never been in a fraternity. I don't know how frat dudes act other than like what I watch on TV and see on YouTube. So so whenever the pandemic happened, I was seeing so many people doing these like changes, or it was more like physical changes. So like everybody was like, all right, I'm gonna use this time to make sure like I'm working out now. And you see people go through these amazing transactions. Like genuinely, it's like crazy the transformations people did during the pandemic, and like absolutely couldn't be prouder for all of the time people did take advantage of during that. But for me, it was a lot of I work out and stuff, but I've never been like where I got to be skinny or like I got to lose weight, because that's just never been me. Other than whenever I was a child, I can't tell you if I've ever like been a small, like been small in that aspect. So for me, it was a lot of change. So I was getting away from the fraternity like frat boy gimmick and was trying to think of what else I could do. And that's whenever I started thinking more into the body positive aspect of my character. And now what I kind of do fully now with it is I was seeing everybody go through these changes, and it's like, man, just because like I didn't go through a drastic visual change doesn't mean that the work that I do is any different or anything like that. So even though I did look the same, that's whenever I did change the look. So that's whenever I dropped the collared shirt, I dropped the khakis, and I switched to the trunks. And I had the knee pads, and I used to wear this whenever I wore clothes and wrestled, I wore wrestling shoes. But now that I wear gear and wrestle, I wear Vans. And I solely did that just so that was a complete me thing. Just solely for me. But so that was where that change happened for me, is I wasn't trying to portray this character that I wasn't really me. And now I get to go into who I am more now. Like even during the pandemic, I was letting my hair grow out because nobody could, you couldn't go get a haircut or anything like that. So then one day at the school we were at, one of the girls comes in and she's like, hey, I must cut people's hair. Like, who wants a haircut? And I was like, I was thinking about like, going back to short hair. And then I was like, actually cut into a mullet. Let's just rock with a mullet for a little bit, see what happens. And that was I cut my hair in 2020, and I haven't changed it in 4 years. So
wow.
But it was really, during that time, I just changed my presence and what I was about. And so now you get to see a more genuine version of what I was trying to do.
Yeah, let's dig into that, because I think in this, so we're a bit of wrestling buffs around here, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how the eras have changed. So prior to the 80s, wrestlers had a different look. Your Dick the Bruisers, your Harley Races, even your Dusty Rhodes were not these muscular guys. They were kind of built like the guy next door, who were the tough men, right? We get to the 80s, and then all of a sudden we get these mesomorphs. Everybody looks like a bodybuilder, and that becomes kind of the new thing. Fast forward to 2020 and 2024, we're now in this space where it's almost welcoming all types again. And so
Absolutely.
I'm curious for you, how comfortable did you feel embracing the body positive movement, given the fact that you mentioned all these people are working out, and there are fewer people in the business that look like you versus, looking like these mesomorphs and the like?
So with that, it does kind of change, kind of trains back into what even like my name itself was based off of. So I've talked about it a little bit, and I think I've talked to one of you guys about it too. But the Fluffman originally started because it was a way to get people to stop making fun of me for being like a bigger kid.
Wow.
So because who's gonna make fun of the big kid named Fluffman? His name is Fluffman.
Yeah.
So then now switching to wrestling, like that's where my name carried over, where I was like, okay, well, I want that to be a part of my wrestling name now too.
Yeah.
Like I go to high school, like I have people who I went to high school with, and they still like if they ever find out like what my real last name is, they're genuinely shocked because they are like, I had no idea your last name wasn't Fluffman, like because that was so much a part of who I was like growing up and everything, because it was it was a defense mechanism. It was to get people to stop making fun of me. So now going into wrestling and then being this character, Cody Fluffman, and in a way it's not even a character because it's been associated with me for so long that now it's going into the body positive of being okay with what you look like, whether you look like me or you look like you should be okay. Like figuring out how to be okay with who you are. And that was a lot of like, for me too, that was a lot of my path and journey of being okay with like, all right, I know I'm not going to look like, perfect example is Sean Legacy, my tag partner. Like I'm not going to look like Sean Legacy. I'm not, but I can look like me, and I can still do things that, even though, I look like, the guy who's sitting right next to you, but whenever I whenever I'm in the ring, just from my presence and charisma and like stuff I am able to do in the ring, like, I feel like that's what also separates me. And that's where it makes it a little easier to people draw to me, because I don't know, I feel like I can just easier connect with people because I look normal.
Absolutely. And good Lord, you are so talented and freaking flexible. I mean, oh my God.
I was like, where's she going with this? What is she going to say?
I couldn't get the word out. I do that. I'm sorry. Sometimes the words don't come out, but they're in my head. But that running kick, like, and you kick him straight in the face right up there in the corner. It's like, how do you get his leg? I can't get my leg up like that. How do you get your leg up like that? And it just freaks me out how you do it.
I stretch every day.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying. You're so flexible, and the things that you can do, a lot of people cannot do the things that you do. And it amazes me. I love to watch you. It amazes me every time. And of course, I love the steamroller. I know.
I know that. Yeah, everybody loves steamroller.
GB has become famous for the call every time you do the steamroller.
That is my favorite. It's top 5 favorite calls that I get on commentary.
Wow.
And no, whenever GB hits the rolling, I love it. It's my favorite.
I can't wait for it.
It goes back to like why I love being at Southern Honor so much too, because like you guys add so much to what we already do, and that's what like the product itself is. So you can't beat a product like that. Like there's a lot of people who are at that level and similar level, but like just what you guys add to it, and then what Marcellus does whenever he's out there recording and everything, like it's just so many talented people all in one building, and I love it.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you've added so much. Oh my God, you've added so much.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say one thing that Diana talked about, there's a lot of people can't do a lot of the stuff that you do. And one thing that immediately came to my mind is something I cannot do is right at the beginning of every match or before every match. You always fool me because I think, did he hurt his back? What just happened? And then you pop out with that twerk and I'm like, whoa.
I've come to expect it now, but it still gets me every single time.
And it makes my back hurt.
You're so good at it.
Sorry to cut you off, GB, but
that's fine.
I grew up with the phrase, shake what your mama gave you. So that's what I tried to do every time.
Yes.
I think that's what I've even said that on the on commentary. What his mama taught him or something like that. Yeah.
So let's get into this. Again, you've only been in the business for 5 years. What got you interested in pro wrestling? Were you a fan growing up? Is there a moment that you said, hey, I want to try this? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I was always like definitely a fan growing up. I watched, wrestling from, I don't know the exact year like I started wrestling. Like I can't tell you like the exact moment I started, but I do remember like growing up watching wrestling in the early 2000s. That was really like around like John Cena first coming up. That was whenever I was first getting into wrestling and stuff like that. But and then right at like Kurt Angle's ending in WWE, like his last little run towards the end, that was around my time because I'm a huge Kurt Angle guy. I love Kurt.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle's my favorite wrestler. But growing up watching wrestling, and I know not everybody has it, but growing up, you have those moments where wrestling isn't cool anymore to you or anything. So, or you grow up and you find other interests, or you're exploring around other stuff. But and then SmackDown was doing a live show down here. My uncle got me tickets because he won like a radio contest, and so I went to that, and that made me like start liking wrestling again. To where on 4th of July we go to a local park in town. It's called Patriots Park, and I see a flyer for a wrestling show, but it's not WWE. It's not anything. It's an indie show, and I was like, I didn't know this was a thing because I had only known WWE. I didn't know there was other wrestling outside of WWE.
Wow.
So whenever I see it, I call one of my buddies and I'm like, hey, do you want to come to wrestling at Patriots Park? He was like, WWE's going to be at Patriots Park? That doesn't make any sense. And I was like, it's not WWE. And so we go, and I remember that being the show where I was like watching it, and I was like, I could wrestle. I could be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Like watching people on this indie show, I was like, I could be a wrestler. And then it was one of those things where everything was falling in line. Like where I had the money to pay to go to the wrestling school that was in Columbia. I had a place to stay in Columbia while I was there. I had a job offer in Columbia while I was there. So everything was kind of falling in line where it was like, oh, I could move states and go do this. And I never wanted to be the guy who was 40 sitting like in a chair going, I wish I would have just tried it. I wish I would have just see what happened. Yeah. I never wanted to have regret when it came to wrestling. So whenever I realized all that could happen, I put in my 2 weeks at my old job and I moved to South Carolina, and now we're here.
I'm curious because a lot of people that are in your shoes that just decide, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for it. There's no turning back. I mean, what? Mm-hmm. There had to be a little bit of trepidation, or was there not any for you?
So I do this thing a lot where I don't think about consequences of my actions.
Okay.
I've been there.
We'll figure it out when we get there.
Wow.
Kind of thing. So, I mean, yeah, with a situation like that, you are a little nervous, but I knew. So, with my parents living in Augusta, and they even told me they're like, if anything were to happen or not, something works out, I was always able to come back home. So I was very grateful in that, and I was very very thankful to have that kind of net too. So, and even with the job offer that was up there, it was installing security systems because that's what my dad has done since even before I was born. Wow. So it was with that same company, and I did it for 3 months. And I remember calling my dad, and I was like, "You've done this like since before I was born?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I respect you so much because this is not for me, and I'm gonna go tell you right now, this is not. Yeah. I'm not gonna keep doing this." Yeah. But it was. So I was nervous, and because you don't know what's going to happen, but if at the end of the day, like I also don't know what's going to happen if I stay here. So why not just go? Why not just go? And plus too, like I lived in Augusta, and I had a truck that wasn't really good on gas, so I really didn't travel outside of Augusta. Like I pretty much stayed in Georgia my whole life, or at least like Augusta, really, because I didn't really go out other than like little vacations here and there, but I was pretty much stayed in Augusta. So I didn't have any other experiences outside of being like in my home. So that was another little boost to go and, just try it because, who knows what was going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious. You mentioned earlier, you briefly mentioned your tag team partner, Sean Legacy, and, a lot of people recently, of course, in SHW saw you team with Dave Stage. You got the tag team title opportunity. We'll talk about that match here in just a little bit. But going back, I think people knew about you and Sean and the Buff and Fluff connection and all that. Mm-hmm. Now, some people may not realize how far back that connection actually goes. Now, you talked to us about it off air, but the fans may not realize just how far back you guys go. I mean, you guys came up together, went to school together, and all that stuff too. Tell us a little bit about your history with Sean Legacy, and maybe any kind of funny stories maybe you could tell us about the two of you guys.
Yeah, I got some good Sean Legacy stories.
I knew you would.
Yeah.
I knew you would.
No, so legit, Sean and I have been friends since we were 13 years old. Or I mean, that's as long as we've known each other. So growing up, we both realized we were wrestling fans, and that's what kind of also kind of started pushing us towards each other. Like, I'm pretty sure he was wearing like a John Cena shirt one day, and I was like, "Yo, you like wrestling?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, me too." We like talked about wrestling, and then
hey, we're live. We're live.
Yeah, exactly. But then that was one thing like we always talked about, even hanging out with like our friend group. Sean and I were talking like, yeah, high school, like after high school, we're gonna go off, we're gonna go train to be wrestlers. We're gonna go train to be wrestlers. And high school ended, and Sean did, like, because Sean's been wrestling longer than I have. And I remember Sean going out and saying like, "Hey, I'm moving." He trained actually. He also moved to South Carolina and trained in Columbia, but he trained with somebody else. So yeah, it was funny because that was random, not on purpose. But he I remember going, and I remember one day just scrolling on Facebook, and I saw him started posting pictures of like him being at wrestling shows and like him training and stuff like that. And I was like, oh dang, like he's actually doing it. And that was kind of where it pushed to of like, oh, Sean actually is doing it. Maybe I should think about doing it. And then just nothing was working out at the time, like training wise. But then, like I said earlier, everything fell into place with going up there. But yeah, Sean and I, legit, we've been friends since we were 13, and grew up talking about wrestling. And then he became a wrestler first. I debuted after him, and then it wasn't even probably until about almost like a year and a half until after I started wrestling, where we did finally get a chance to tag together. Because I'll never forget the night we were hanging out at our friend's house, and it was like 3:00 in the morning, and Sean and I are in the front yard, and we were talking about wrestling. He was like, "Dude, what if whenever we're wrestlers, we're a tag team?" And they're like, "Oh, dude, yeah, we're gonna be a tag team when we're wrestlers." And then we're talking, and then it's like, "Oh, what should our tag name be?" And we're coming up with the stupidest stuff. I'll never forget Sean going, "No, what if we're the Buff and Fluff Connection?" And I was like, "That's awesome." Like, yeah. And so whenever it was like, "Hey, yeah," so then we have a chance to tag on a show, and then we're texting back and forth one day, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to actually like do it? Like, I don't know, we talked about like growing up. Do you want to try it?" And yeah, from that point on, we're like, "Yeah, let's do it."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But Sean, funny story about Sean, he is notorious for bringing the most random items into my car, but they're never like weird. There's never like, oh, it's just like a random item. It's always food related. So like, so one show we went to, I see him come out with a carton of eggs, and I was like, "Sean, what are you doing? Why do you have a carton of eggs? Like, we got to make a stop on the way to the show." He goes, "No, these are for me." And I was like, "What?" My man made 18 hard-boiled eggs and put them back in the carton, and then brought them into my car and was like, "Can I throw these in the cooler?" And just put some in there. I was like, "Why do we have 18 hard-boiled eggs in my car, Sean?" He goes, "Because that's what I'm going to eat throughout the day." And I'm like, "You're going to eat 18 hard-boiled eggs throughout the whole day?" He's like, "Yep, that's what I'm going to do." I'm like, "You're disgusting. Like, you think I'm disgusting, and you're doing that." And then I'll never forget, we're driving, we're about an hour into the car ride, and I just hear Sean go, "Ooh, egg time." And he reaches and he grabs the carton, and I swear he starts eating. He was like taking, like, I thought he was eating them so whole, it felt like, that I thought later in the match that we had that night, he was gonna like shoot them out like a gun, like boom, 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 like.
The thought of him going, "Egg time."
I have a vision.
Oh yeah, he's like, "Ooh, egg time." Yeah, he's
God, 18.
Yeah.
But them bodybuilder diets are brutal, right?
Not a fan.
Well, and he did get legit into bodybuilding too. So I remember he did the tanning and stuff, and
he did. He did compete in a bodybuilding contest. I believe he placed second or third. in that competition we did it, and that was his first time ever doing anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember
That
he
was
did.
amazing.
I remember he told me after the competition, because you can't, they go like starve themselves pretty much like right at the end.
Yeah.
And he said I went and I got a whole pizza and 2 burgers and 2 large order of fries from Five Guys.
No eggs?
He said I ate the whole thing, and we got about an hour down the road. We had to pull over and I threw it. He just it all.
You can't eat like that.
He ate so much right after. But yeah, Sean and food go hand in hand, honestly, more than food does with me. So
that's so funny. Like that. See, you're getting stuff on this podcast you would never expect to get, because I would have never guessed.
Or like when we went to the UK, we were sitting there. It was while we were on the way, and I just remember like it took so long for them to serve dinner, and I was getting so hungry. And Sean and I finally was like, look, Sean, I was like, dude, either they gotta like give it to me early or something. I was like, I'm starving. He goes, all right, I got you. And this man reaches into his bag and he pulls out 2 Ziploc bags. One is 2 Ziploc bags, each have a singular chicken breast in it. And he hands me one. He goes, here, you can have my other chicken breast. And we sit there eating these chicken breasts on the plane. It was just so funny.
That's a true tag team partner right there.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like only wrestling can I be sitting in a plane going to a different country with my best friend eating just a whole chicken breast out of a sandwich bag. Like,
So you kind of beat us to the punch a little bit, because my next big question was going to be the UK trip.
Yes.
This was just a few months ago, right? At this point, and the first time for you going out of the country and wrestling out of the country, correct?
Yes, yeah, it was my first ever time being out of the country in general.
So kind of give us the backstory.
Beyond.
The backstory on how it all came about and how it all happened, how it all went.
Yeah, so I at the time I was supposed to go on a different trip, but some stuff happened, and so I had to cancel those plans. And with those, with the canceled plane ticket, they wouldn't give me the money back on it, but they gave it to me in points. So with that, Sean had already had everything set up to go on the trip to the UK with everything. And I just one day asked him, I was like, hey, just ask him about me. Like, or can I, like, let me get their stuff, let me talk to him. And then Sean ended up talking to the guy, and he sent him, some of my matches, and he watched them, and he is like, yeah, I would love to bring Fluff in, but unfortunately, like, it's probably not something we can do this tour, but like next time you come over, maybe we can work in to get both you guys in. And I told Sean, I was like, tell him I'll pay for my flight. And he sent him that, and he goes, because I had those points, and we looked it up, and the points I had covered the plane ticket cost to go to the UK for there and back. And
Kismet, is that what they call it? Kismet.
And so I was like, tell him I'll pay for the flight. And Sean sent that message, and it was like 20 minutes later, he goes, yeah, we'd actually love Fluffman to come with you on this tour. And so then I was set in, and he got our agent got us booked on he got me booked on all the same shows Sean was that weekend. So it was just, I got lucky. It was perfect timing on everything, even whenever, something kind of looks down, or like, you have a little tough situation, some good can come out of it sometimes. So.
Yeah. So you always hear about people saying that even in different states here in America, have different kind of crowds, prefer different types of wrestling and all that. It's definitely like that in different countries. What was your experience in the UK with that, with the crowd and with the way they wrestle over there? Like, was it a big difference for you, a big shock or culture shock at all to you?
So the biggest, fan-wise, the biggest difference was absolutely they don't chant last names. Or at least in any show I was at, none of the crowd chanted Fluff. I didn't get a Fluffy chant. I didn't get a Fluffman chant, but they chanted Cody a lot. And everybody was chanting Cody, which I thought was the only thing I was like, that's weird. I was like, I don't know, because nobody none of the shows around here, nobody's chanting Cody in the crowd for me. So it was really weird. I was like, are they cheering for me? What's going on? Is there another person in them? What's the ref's name? Is your name Cody? All right. Yeah, so that was probably fan wise, that was the weirdest thing. But they, at the end of the day, same aspect. They are there to have fun, just like any crowd is, and so I get to go out there and just get to have fun with them, and get to have those fun moments.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because, some of our exposure is to seeing you in other spaces. And I know that you get the chance to wrestle in your hometown regularly. But,
Yes.
you talked about how, you'd been in Augusta pretty much most of your life. Now you're getting to travel to different places, whether it is the UK or, of course, Southern Honor or some of the other places. And you become a fan favorite so easily. And we regularly
Easy.
talk about on
Fast.
this podcast how difficult it is for newcomers to crack in at Southern Honor. It is not easy at all. And you literally had them at hello. Tell me what it
Or
is.
had them at the pie in the face.
Well, that too, right?
That was just fun. That was just fun.
that helped. Yeah.
What is it about you that connects so easily and quickly with crowds?
I do think about that sometimes, and I think it kind of does go back into what we were talking about a little bit earlier, in the sense of it's a lot of, I kind of look normal. Like I don't look like your typical professional wrestler. So I think that's what kind of helps me with getting people to kind of connect to me or feel comfortable with around, or feel comfortable with cheering me because I do. I don't know, it's like cheering for your friend that's doing something, right? Rather
that
than
Dusty Rhodes appeal, that everyman kind of.
Yeah.
Other people can say it. I refuse to say it. I refuse to say it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's just a lot of what it is. At the end of the day, it's just a lot of I'm just normal. It's easy for people to get behind me because like I just said, is they're it's like cheering for a friend rather than just watching a guy competing for something.
Sure. And I get that. I think with anything, we talk a lot about representation and things of that nature. When people can see themselves reflected in whatever that is, whether it's body type, sexual preference, or even a character trait, people can latch on to that. So with that said, talk about what it's like to be working in Southern Honor now. And what that transition was like for you. You've been wrestling all over the place. What did it mean for you to come to Southern Honor, and how do you feel like your run there has been so far?
I've really enjoyed it. I started coming to Southern Honor. Just I started showing up one day, and I did come to a handful of shows where I didn't get used, and that's okay because that was a lot of my mentality going into 2023 was because I just moved back to Augusta and I wasn't doing a lot of stuff in the Carolinas anymore. So I was like, all right, well, I need to go out and branch more, keep wrestling. So there was like a list of like 10 shows. I was like, these are shows that are in a drivable distance that I want to start working at. And I'm just going to start showing up. And eventually somebody's going to give me a shot and something's going to happen eventually, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, and Southern Honor was one of them. So I just started showing up, and then things fell in where, it worked out where we could, have this story with Lev. And it's honestly, working at Southern Honor has been so much fun for me. And it's a lot to do with that crowd because the crowd is so hyped. They're so energetic. They're so just ready to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing in like a wrestling crowd. There's only like a handful of wrestling crowds in the area. I feel like that the crowd is just there to have fun, and Southern Honor is one of them. And so, and that's where I'm really thankful where I do just get to go out and I get to have fun, whether it's doing, something with Sean, or if I'm tagging with Dave Stage, or whatever I'm doing at Southern Honor, I just get to go out and have fun. And like, that's, at the end of the day, that's all I've wanted to do in wrestling is I just want to have fun. Yeah. And Southern Honor allows me to do that.
Well, I'm going to give you a little credit because not every match are those people ready to have fun. Sometimes, probably shouldn't say this, but sometimes they are so quiet and it's just like they're ready for this particular match to be over and done with. And I'm not even going to name a match or whatever, but sometimes it's like that. But
I was going to say, it didn't have me in it, so.
No, it's never. You bring the good time out with you. And when your music hits and you come out dancing and you do your thing, they come alive and they love you. And it is amazing how much they love you. I mean, it reminds me of how All-Star Special is when they get to come. They have the jukebox and everything, and that was huge. But we haven't had them in a while. We do miss them, but we're getting a little taste of that same energy when the Fluffman comes out, and we freaking love it.
When that Chumbawamba hits the speakers, man. That's what I always say. So GB, the Fluffman cometh.
And that's where I think a lot of it has to do with the song too, because I feel like the song is so very high energy. And I feel like Chumbawamba is one of those songs where nobody knows it, but when you hear it, you know that song.
Oh yes.
And that was one of my reasons on choosing that for my interest music too, because it was one of those where it's like, I've heard this song before. Okay. Yeah. And like that same reason with like Sean and I coming out to Whoop There It Is. Or coming out to tag team, because it's just one of those like, I remember whenever we first started tagging and we came out to that was whenever the ice cream commercial came out with tag team, and they were going Scoop There It Is. And one of the first shows, there's literally like the crowd split with like the adults and everybody saying Whoop There It Is, and then all like the kids and everything who only seen the commercial yelling out Scoop There It Is. It was the funniest thing ever.
Great.
That is funny. But the millennials and the Gen Z and the Gen Xers and all that, they're like, wait, that they don't know the words.
Yeah, everybody's trying to figure out what it actually is.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That's great. So let's lead into where we are now. You know, you've been having some problems with Lev, which has been crazy to me. He has now cost you not one but two title opportunities. What's the deal with that? Why does Lev continue to keep bothering you like this? It's crazy to me.
Oh, I would love to know, because at the end of the day, like, he hasn't even really said anything. Like, because even going back to our first time, I was just sitting out in the crowd. I was just hanging out, and he decided to call me out, whether or not he was mad because I beat him like 2 weeks before that at a different show. So that, I mean, honestly, that could have something to do with it too. But I mean, I haven't really heard him give an explanation, whether it's like on a show or even just like in general. Like, he hasn't really said why. But I mean, at this point, to me, it doesn't matter why, because we've gone past the point of me caring why. Like, because we're not fixing the why at this point, because after everything that he's done, and did I do some things to him? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was it called
payback.
for me to hit him in the face?
It was always
with a
payback,
pie?
though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're at that point with Lev where I'm over Lev. I'm over his buddies. I'm over the faithful. No matter what branch of it they are, no matter who there is. If you're friends with Lev, you ain't friends with Fluffman at the end of the day. And coming to that with like in the Rumble Jack, I really, really hope I get to put my hands on Lev before the Rumble Jack, because whenever I get into the Rumble Jack, I want that to be my focus. I'm tired of every match looking over my shoulder, not knowing who's going to show up, or where they're going to come from. So if I have a chance to put Lev away before that, I would that would be awesome, because I want to go into the Rumble Jack focused on the end goal of that, which is winning. I would love to be, I would love to win the Rumble Jack, my first year ever, and this will be my first time ever. And it's really only like the second ever like Rumble match I've ever been in. So, I may have a little bit of inexperience with it, but Fluffman's been able to do some pretty incredible things. So let's not one more little miracle on winning the Rumble Jack,
This is true.
I have seen you do like an extended steamroll. It wasn't at Southern Honor, but it was with multiple opponents.
From corner to corner.
Oh, right? I love stacking people up for some steamrolling. Get a good couple people on it.
Yeah, we love it.
Well, so yeah, I was gonna say, so just I guess in the last couple of weeks we saw a new episode with Cheyenne Michaels around the locker room, where she was getting some backstage interviews. We heard from you there, and that's of course where we saw the official announcement that Cody Fluffman is an entrant in the 6th annual Rumble Jack match, the 2024 edition. So we are super excited for that. Of course, Rumble Jack coming up August 9th at the Action Building at in Marietta Road, 261 Marietta Road, Canton, Georgia. I'll get it right. It's been a while. We had July off, and I can't get my stuff right. Anyways, so we're super excited about that. It's at least 30 competitors. Some years it's been more than 30. I haven't heard officially yet this year the number, but we can count on probably at least 30. But you kind of gave us a little bit of your mindset going into it, and you said you've had experience in one other Rumble match. Is that what you said?
So now that I think about it, I have been in 2 other Rumble matches. So this would be my third ever like Rumble style match.
Because I'm always curious. Yeah, I'm always curious. What is the mentality? Is there a certain type of strategy for somebody going into a Rumble match? I know you said you only had a little bit of experience, but what would that strategy you think be? I mean, trying to just conserve as much energy and try to lay low in a corner or out on the floor. Like, what's the mindset there?
So, you kind of said it with right there at the end. For me, everything's always very much more of a mindset game than it is a physical game.
Okay.
So in a match like this, it's the mindset of knowing that, if I get in there at 1, I can go until 30, or, no matter what point I'm in, I can go until the end. And that's always been my, lookout with these kind of matches or any kind of match where there is like a different stipulation. I very much focus on more of a mental aspect than I do a physical aspect. Not to say I just completely neglect any sort of like physical work towards it. I still work out. I still, do some conditioning stuff. I still train. But a lot of it for me has always been more of a mental game than it is been a physical game. So just knowing that I do have the ability to go. I have the ability to, turn it on when I need to and turn it off when I need to. So just conquering that and keeping any kind of doubts out of the way, that's very much my goals in matches like these.
Awesome. Well, I tell you this much. You said you don't know what number you're going to go in. I know for sure you will not be 1 or 2 because those Punk's Exotic Youth have already been placed. Zach Mosley at 1, Pepper Bottom at 2. And I'm going to run through the list.
Happen to a greatest duo.
Oh, I know. Absolutely. And I was a little bit, and GB knows this, even at the last show when Gary was even asking our opinion if he should let him in or not, I was very against the idea. But then the stipulation came about where it was like, but you must fight each other or else you're both out of SHW. And I thought, all right, in that case, I'll let it slide. But I'm still a little bit like, I don't even want these guys around. They hit me with the freaking car back in February or January, whenever it was. Anyways,
uncalled for.
Uncalled for. Exactly, sir. But let me go through this list of
being hit with a car.
Yeah,
I know, right? Yeah.
Let's go through the list of people who have been announced thus far, and just if any of these kind of catch your attention, just let me know. But here's who we know so far, and there may be some more between now and August. I mean, we still have a few more weeks, so we'll see. I know we're obviously going to have some surprises because every year you just never know who's going to show up. But of course, as I mentioned, the Exotic Youth are going to be in it. Nathan Mowry, Darian Bankston, CT Keys, Jaden Newman, Nick Halen, Chip Day, Kyle Matthews, of course, Cody Fluffman, Kenway, Murder One, and Joe Black. So the hierarchy representing for sure.
Right.
And you got Chip Day, Kyle Matthews, former tag champs. Chip Day, of course, former Jake the Snake Legacy champion. And then earlier today, it was announced that Hunter James, the current JTS champion, will be in this match as well. So any of those names stick out to you? You faced a few of these guys at some point.
Yeah. Really, like, just even looking at that list, I see a lot of people who are established in the Southern Honor like scene whenever it comes to title pictures and like title matches, stuff like that. There's a lot of people in that are constantly looked at for matches like that. And so that's where I'm really excited because I want to be able, it's always been my goal too, is to show people that I can go with top guys. I can go with guys who are, on that level above me because I do feel like I have that ability. So getting to mix it up with a lot of guys who have been at the top, not only at Southern Honor, but have just been, on the top in general in wrestling, like to be able to step in with them and, step toe to toe with them, just to prove not only to myself, but prove to other people that like, I can hang with I can hang with the top guys. So
yeah,
that's what I'm really excited for that. Chip Day, it's a name that really does stand out to me. Fun fact: Chip Day was my 50th match ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've known Chip. Yeah, even like that independent wrestler show I was talking about, I went to growing up here. Chip was a wrestler on there, and that's where I first ever met Chip. So I've known Chip for a very long time, and even more recently getting to call him more of a friend has been really awesome. So yeah, or at the end of the day with that list, I'm just ready to show that I can go in and hang.
I was wondering where you might go talking about Chip Day, and I thought you might want to tread lightly because that's one of Diana's bad boys. So just
I love Chip.
Me too.
But it was all good
Chip.
stuff, so we're good. Yeah.
I love Chip.
I didn't have any worries because I've already had a conversation prior to this podcast, so I already knew y'all were on good terms, so I was already good. That's why I'm over here smiling. I'm like, yeah, we're good.
Well, I'm excited for you, man, and the fact you've already had championship opportunities in SHW, and that's huge because, like GB said, it's hard for people to come in unknown to the SHW crowd, like you did initially, and to just blow up like you have and become a fan favorite. And you've already had some title opportunities, but you've never had the Southern Honor Championship opportunity. But if you're able to go through 30, maybe 30 plus competitors in the Rumble Jack, you will get that shot. And all the best of luck to you in the Rumble Jack, man. I can't wait for it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely 100% excited for it. Rumble Jack, like along with like the companies I wanted to work, there was a bunch of matches or like different things I wanted to be in, and Rumble Jack was on that list as well.
Nice.
And then even like this month, like I'm getting to knock out 2 more of those, so we're just knocking out stuff that has been on these lists. So I'm pumped, beyond excited.
I love it, man. I'm excited for you. We're excited for you. Is there any final question before we wrap up? Because I'm gonna let you guys ask whatever you want here, and then of course we'll give Cody the floor to say to the fans anything he wants to before we wrap up. But go ahead.
Yeah, whatever you want to say, Fluff. Whatever.
On you, sir.
Thank you guys for having me on here. Thank you for everybody, not only in the Southern Honor crowd, but just everybody in general for being a fan. It genuinely does mean the world to me, the reaction I get every time I go through a curtain. So I'm beyond thankful for the life I'm getting to live right now and the experiences I'm getting. So thank you to everybody, because as much as I want to do this, without support and without like a great foundation and fan base, like I can't do anything. So having the support I'm beyond thankful for all of this.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. And you're exactly right. If it wasn't for the fans, the SHW fans, wrestling fans in general, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. There's no promotion if there's no fans, So absolutely love that mentality. But that's going to wrap us up for this week's edition of the podcast. And of course, you can see this man, our special guest, Cody Fluffman, at the Rumble Jack, August 9th, Canton, Georgia, at the Action Building, the 6th annual Rumble Jack, one of our biggest shows every single year, one of the most unpredictable nights. You never know who might show up. And I just absolutely cannot wait. But we will be back here on this podcast in the weeks to come. We've still got a few weeks left before that big show. So until next time, this has been
SHW.
This is our wrestling.